بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Every nation's success lies on it fulfilling its primary objectives, the purposes for which it exists, and the needs which it aims to fulfill. A nation which is prosperous, for example, but unable to fulfill its mission, its goal, if it has one, cannot be deemed a successful one. Similarly, a community is only successful if it is achieving its objectives. There's no doubt that those objectives will vary slightly from person to person, family to family. But every community, if it is to be called a community, needs to have some common objectives. The same applies to any company or organization, where every company is set up to achieve certain things. Now, the basic human needs are the same across all of humanity. These do not vary. The need for food, clothing, shelter, transport, the basic emotional and social needs are the same. However, these needs, as pivotal of a role that they play, do not become the objectives of human beings. They do not become the objectives of communities. Why? Because it is within human nature to aim for something higher, to achieve something bigger. Someone who is fulfilling these needs is able to maintain a certain level of well-being. There's no doubt about that. And without fulfilling those needs, a certain level of well-being cannot be achieved. But simply achieving a sense of well-being does not give a human being a sense of purpose in life. Very quickly they will get bored of this and they will say, okay, so now what's next? What am I supposed to be really doing with my life, my talents, my energies? I want to achieve something big. I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something that has an impact. I want to change the world or affect someone's life. And there are 1,000,001 ways in which someone can change the world and have a good impact on lives. Many, many ways, countless ways in which every individual in every community can have an impact on the world. The problem is that because we have this whole framework of needs that we're kind of strapped to, there's a constant struggle between our needs and higher objectives. Every human being is facing this tussle. I want to achieve this, but these are my limitations. And we often will find that it's our needs that will create the limitations for our goals and objectives. And therein lies the challenge to the human being, that can you arrange your needs in such a way that your objectives are being fulfilled, or will you allow your needs to overrule everything and overrun you? Anyone who has achieved anything in life, whether it's in a particular industry or it's a humanitarian cause, it's liberating a nation, it's whatever it is, anything meaningful that people have done, they've always done it by compromising their needs and giving preference to their objectives and somehow building their needs around their objectives so that everything is in line. And wherever and whenever a compromise has been made, it's been in needs, not in objectives. We live in a very highly materialistic society in which all the focus is on the needs, and we are constantly bombarded with messages telling us unique ways, new ways to fulfill our needs. And also messages telling us and threatening us that your needs are not being fulfilled. Threatening us that we are in constant danger of our needs being unfulfilled. And everyone out there who has a product or a service to offer, to make money by, is pushing this message out to us, that you're in danger. If you don't take what we have, then you will lose out on this and this and this and this. And if you take this, then your life is set. If you buy what I have to sell, your life is set. Let's take a look at the billboards when you drive to work and when you drive home. Every billboard is calling out and saying, what I have guarantees your satisfaction and guarantees your success. Even people that are selling toilets out there are selling them as if this is the ultimate. If you have this particular product, then your life is set. Doesn't matter whether you live in a mansion or you live in a cardboard box, but just get this toilet and you'll be fine. The focus on materialism has overwhelmed all of us, irrespective of our religion and beliefs. And our attention, we have been sort of programmed now to keep ourselves focused on material gains and losses. Material gains and losses, material gains and losses. The tradition of humanity, historically speaking, was not about this. The tradition of humanity was about human beings. The tradition of humanity was about excelling in ethics, manners, behaviors, extending a helping hand, whether it was convenient or not, whether it made sense to people or not, whether it resulted in material gains or losses. People were prepared to lose materialistically as long as they did not have to give up their ethics. And in fact, many wars were based on not material gains, but rather on an ethic, a principle. That is a wrong that we will not stand for. So we will rise up against that wrong, and we will make sure that that wrong is righted, even if we have to expend immense amounts of resources to do so. Our organization is no different. There will always be needs. And these will somehow set the framework for what our limitations are. And then there will be objectives. There will be higher goals. There will be aspirations that we are trying to achieve. Our struggle is not to get by and fulfill our needs. Our struggle is to organize our needs in such a way that they never get in the way of our objectives. And there is success itself. And the moment our needs will overrun us, overwhelm us, become the focal point of our lives, our attention, then we have by ourselves made ourselves redundant, and we've removed ourselves from the map of all of those organizations that change the world. We look to the lives of the Prophets ﷺ for guidance, for inspiration, for light, and we look up to them as models. We don't find in any of those models people that were out to create financial infrastructures, people that were out to create governments. Power and capital were always the slogans of those who lived to further their own interests, even at the expense of other people. Their slogans were the slogans of power and capital. Their attention and focus was on power and capital. To them, that meant everything. As long as they were gaining power and or capital, they were succeeding. The moment that was diminished or compromised, that was something intolerable. and they would go to great lengths and commit great atrocities to protect their own power and capital. The Prophets ﷺ did not believe in this slogan. They did not believe in the power of power and capital. They did not believe in hurting people for the sake of furthering one's own interests. And they ultimately did not believe that power and capital has anything to do with the success of an individual or a community or a nation. So their invitation was on a completely different footing, on a completely different foundation. Their foundation was that if you recognize who God is and realize how He wants you to spend your life, you have succeeded. And if you compromise that, then no matter what else you achieve in life, you have not succeeded. And they appealed to people's hearts before they appealed to their minds. And they help people understand that life is about a greater purpose. It's not just about the fulfillment of needs. And they were the ones who introduced people to this fact, to this concept, that you do not need material goods to succeed. You can succeed with material goods, you can succeed without material goods. Those goods, their excess or their scarcity, are not what define you as an individual. And so their followers worked on themselves and beautifying themselves, building themselves, where there was an opportunity to look after their interests of a worldly nature, they did. But when those opportunities did not present themselves, they were not living in misery. They were furthering their own development, rising to a higher level of faith, of character, of behavior, of mannerism, and they kept doing it. And the irony is, in every single case, these people became the leaders of the world. Even though their effort was in the exact opposite direction, they ended up having all the power and capital that people were desirous of. They never cared for it. They never worked towards it. But all of a sudden it fell in their lap. For 13 years, the people who lived with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived a life of sacrifice. Read the seerah of Bilal radiyallahu anhu, the Abyssinian slave. One of the first people to accept Islam. He was already a slave. So did he have anything to gain by accepting Islam? Absolutely not. And if you look at his life, someone might ask, what could be worse than slavery? If you want to know what could be worse than slavery, read the life of Bilal radiyallahu anhu. How things went from bad to worse. Not only did he not have any freedom, but now he was persecuted by anyone and everyone who wished to inflict punishment on him. He was whipped day and night. He had massive boulders placed on his chest and made to lie in the scorching hot sand, in the blistering weather. For what? It became a sport amongst the chieftains of Quraysh. Who can punish him more? Who can cause more agony to this man? And he would lose consciousness. He would drift in and out of consciousness. He was not allowed water or drink or anything of that sort. And the whole game was, let's see who can make him turn from his faith. Who can torture him to that extent that makes him leave his faith. And in that dire condition, he just kept saying, Ahadun Ahad. Ahadun Ahad. I only have one God. I'm not going to leave him. Even if my soul departs, I'm not going to leave him. And it was just a matter of time before these sacrifices paid off and he took one of the noblest positions in Islam. It was just a matter of time. Suhaib al-Rumi was a man who had come to Mecca after being kidnapped. He escaped, he came back, he made himself a good fortune. Now it's time to migrate to Medina. The people of Mecca said, no, you've come here and made all this money. We're not going to let you leave. He said, well, what will it take? to convince you to allow me to leave? What if I offer you some of this property? What if I offer you some of that property? What I offer you? And they kept taking and taking and taking, even though it was his right to come and go as he pleased. But they made him give up all his wealth just so that he could migrate. And he migrated. When we read the lives of these people, we find that it was a very non-materialistic foundation upon which they were leading their lives. And ultimately, the social achievements, the religious achievements, the spiritual achievements, and even the materialistic achievements just came to these people. Now that formula doesn't make sense to a lot of people, that how can you have materialistic gains when you're not making any effort for those materialistic gains? But that's what the Quran promises. The Quran will give to those people who have those qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at. It's not about what means they acquire to themselves, because we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala carries out His command by using means, as frequently happens. But He is not restricted to those means. He can do things without means, and He can do things against the means. He can create, normally, He creates a child through a father and mother. But if He wants to, He can create a child without a father, without a mother. If He so wishes, it will happen. He can do things against the means because He created those means. Those means are enslaved to Him. They belong to Him. He can turn them into whatever He wants. And that's what the miracles of the prophets are teaching us every single time, that these worldly means might be something that we relate to, but these are not the original cause of what happens in the world. The original cause is the command of God. When He wants something to happen, it will happen. When He doesn't want, it simply won't happen. This is why Musa alayhi salam, Moses did not amass an army to battle Fir'aun. He did not. He worked on the beliefs of those people, on the character of those people, and he brought it to a level where God told them, that's it, my help is coming. Your enemies are going to be vanquished. I'm going to do it for you. Musa did not do anything to attack Fir'aun, to take away his kingdom, to do anything to him whatsoever. Ibrahim alayhi salam did not build an army against Nimrud. Hud alayhi salam did not build an army to fight the nation of Ad, these great oppressors. Salih alayhi salam did not build an army to fight against his people of Thamud, and so on and so forth. The story is the same in every single case. Those who clung to the right beliefs, to the right actions, and held themselves to that higher moral standard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped them irrespective of what they had in their hands. So coming back to where I started this discussion, our success does not lie in our ability to fulfill our needs. Every creature in the world is concerned about fulfilling its needs and is doing so in its own unique way. The birds in the skies, and the fish in the oceans, and the beasts of the earth, every single one of them is extremely skilled at fulfilling its own needs. Thus, this cannot be the feather in the human being's cap. This cannot be the notch in his belt. This cannot be what makes him raise his head in pride that I was able to amass such and such means to fulfill my needs. No, the human being is much more skilled, is much more intelligent, is much more wise. And the groups, organizations that he creates are also much wiser, much more intelligent, much higher than that. Or are they? That's something for us to think about. So, our relevance to this world, to this universe, lies in doing some very special things successfully. Are we going to achieve them? Or are we going to remain gridlocked in this framework of our needs which becomes our limitations, which becomes our life. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to reflect on these things and enable us to break free of our own shackles and enable us to aspire for the best that is out there, for the highest achievements that human beings had ever achieved. And the people in this room are the ones who will decide what the students coming out of this school will achieve. What will the students achieve? What will be their aspirations? A lot of that rests on our aspirations. What goals do we have? What mood are we setting? What's the tempo? What's the big picture that we're putting in front of these kids? If it's the same as every other school, then we are also the same as every other school. And we should not expect anything extraordinary, anything mind-boggling, anything amazing, because we never intended it. So this is a place to start the discussions for this week. I hope that this will get us thinking and get us inspired and get us motivated and really get those gears moving in our heads to see what is there, what really are we after, and how can we do it in the best way possible. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.